Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasul al-Kareem, wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah, today we are at the 22nd of Dhul Qa'dah, 1437. This means we have 7 days before we'll be looking for the moon again. If we find that it's 29 days, then we will know that the Eid will be coming 10 days thereafter. If we find that it's 30 days, then the Eid will be coming 11 days thereafter, which will be Eid al-Adha. Right? Now, when we last came together, we had reached Surah Al-Qalam, the 68th surah, the commentary on Ayah 42, and we still had a little bit of outstanding tafsir left. And inshallah, we're going to be moving forward from there to Surah Al-Haaqqah. So Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he starts by saying, quote, "And when it is mentioned that they will be called to prostrate," meaning the hypocrites, "and they won't be able to, it's because the vertebrae in their back will be fused together like iron." And Naqash has said, that is because at that point in the hereafter, responsibility and the rulings that will be required in this earthly life are no longer extant. So they will not be able to prostrate or do so. So Allah's statement to them that they will not be able to prostrate is a rebuke. Then after this, Allah the Exalted, He says, خَاشِعَةً أَبَصَارُهُمْ تَرْهَقُهُمْ ذِلَّةٌ وَقَدْ كَانُوا يُدَعُونَ إِلَى السُّجُودِ وَهُمْ سَالِمُونَ فَذَرْنِي وَمَنْ يُكَذِّبُ بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ سَنَسْتَدْرِجُهُمْ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ وَأُمْلِي لَهُمْ إِنَّ كَيْدِي مَتِينٌ أَمْ تَسْأَلُهُمْ أَجْرًا فَهُمْ مِنْ مَغْرَمٍ مُثْقَلُونَ أَمْ عِنْدَهُمُ الْغَيْبُ فَهُمْ يَكْتُبُونَ فَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ وَلَا تَكُنْ كَصَاحِبِ الْحُوتِ إِذْ نَادَى وَهُوَ مَكْظُومٌ لولا أن تداركه نعمة من ربه لنبذ بالعراء وهو مذموم فاجتباه ربه فجعله من الصالحين وإن يكاد الذين كفروا ليزلقونك بأبصارهم لما سمعوا الذكر ويقولون إنه لمجنون وما هو إلا ذكر للعالمين. Their sight will be downcast, their faces laid low and gloomy. They had been called to prostrate beforehand, but they refused. Leave me alone with the one who denies this speech. We shall surely lay in wait and catch them from ways that they did not know. And we have power over them. Indeed, my plan is strong. Or will you ask them for a wage on behalf of what you've been given, while they themselves are in need? Or do they have some share of the unseen in which they write it down, so that they might know of affairs to come? Be patient with the judgment of your Lord, and do not be like the possessor of the fish, when he called out, and he was in a state of ignominy. Had it not been that he was known to count the favors of his Lord, then he would have certainly been found to be in error, and he would have been blameworthy. But his Lord chose him and made him from the pious. Those who reject faith, they look at you and lower their eyes, as if they could cut you with it, whenever they hear the remembrance, and they say, "This one here is mad. But he is not mad or demon possessed. It is only revelation to all of creation. Surah Al-Qalam, the 68th surah, ayat 43 to 52. When the Exalted One mentions that their faces and their vision will be downcast because they are overwhelmed, and when they'd been called to prostrate because they heard the adhan in this earthly life, and they were commanded to pray the 5 times salawat, they did not do so, although their backs were capable of bending. In this ayah, you find a clear threat that Allah has made against those who abandon praying in congregation. Ka'b ibn al-Ahbar used to say, I swear by Allah, this ayah was not sent down except regarding those who abandoned praying in congregation. So leave me alone with the one who denies this speech. This speech is the Quran. Meaning, let there be between me and him intimate speech. As the Zajjaj has said, do not allow your heart to be distracted by such an individual, because he will be brought to me, and I am sufficient to deal with him. Now, some of the scholars of commentary mentioned that this statement from the ayah up until al-hadith, leave me alone with the one who denies this hadith, some have said that this was abrogated by Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th surah, ayah 5. However, what comes after that ayah has been discussed already in commentary on Surah Al-Araf, the 7th surah, ayat 182 to 183. And the rest until the end of the surah has been discussed in Surah Al-Tur, ayat 39 to 40. The Exalted One says, فَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ. So be patient with the judgment of your Lord. Be patient on the difficulties that come to you based upon what your Lord has decreed. And the patience here is being patient and waiting for the revelation on the command to fight, which is Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th surah, 5. And do not be like the companion of the great fish. This is referring to Nabiyuna Yunus alayhi salam. For he went ahead, he was angry with his people, and he was hasty in his anger towards them. And they were weakened as well from receiving the message. Now, because this has been mentioned, Ibn Al-Ambari and Ibn Jarir both mentioned that because this statement was made, it does not mean that Nabiyuna Yunus alayhi salam was not from the upright prophets, or that he was mistaken. Rather, if we were to say any such thing as this, it would mean that none of the prophets are upright. But we do not say this. And if we said that the prophets were not steadfast in their mission because their peoples rejected them, we would say, well, the only prophet left, if we made such a statement, would be Nabiyuna Yahya alayhi salam. But rather, these ayat are not referring to that. These ayat are warnings of those who aren't patient, what the penalty is. Whereas the prophets are given as models of patience. So Allah says, and when he called on his Lord while he was filled with grief and anguish, and had Allah not found in him the favor of your Lord. So the favor of your Lord is his mercy and his relenting towards him on account of his abandoning his people when they denied the message, then he would have been found to be blameworthy. Now, Ara and Madhmum, we've already discussed this in Surah Al-Safat, the 37th Surah, ayah 145. So, had it not been the case that he was remembering the favors of his Lord, such as repentance and the mercy from Allah, then he would have been blameworthy. Ibn Jurayj has said, Nubida bil-Ara, that he would have been brought in a blameworthy state to the plain. The plain or part of land referred to is the place where the day of resurrection initially takes place on earth. So if he had not been remembering his Lord and praising his favors, he would have remained in the belly of that fish until the day of resurrection. But his Lord chose him, meaning he selected him, chose him, and purified him from every blameworthy trait, and made him among the pious, because he gave him revelation. He gave him intercession among his people and with himself. And those who reject faith almost cut their eyes at you in anger. So scholars of commentary say, when the unbelievers wanted to cause difficulty to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would often lower their eyes as if rolling them back. Now there was a man from among them that hoped to infect the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the evil eye. And there had been among them a man who stayed 2 or 3 days, who didn't eat anything. Then he lifted up the side of his garment and dropped it back down. And he said, I don't see anything like today, neither a camel nor any other better than this. And anyone who comes to this end and has seen what I have given shall certainly taste death. The unbelievers, when they saw this show of power, asked the man that he might strike the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the evil eye. But when he attempted to, Allah protected his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from it, and this ayah was sent down. This has been mentioned by Al-Kalbi and others that have discussed it in their commentaries. And when they looked to the believers with enmity, with a hard look, rolling their eyes in anger, they would sometimes look the believers up and down out of disdain for them. And this is mentioned in the Arabic language, that when people look at each other with stern looks, sometimes they look them up and down to show their disdain for that person. This was mentioned by Ibn Qutaybah as Zajjaj, and Allah has mentioned them doing this in His Quran when they heard the remembrance. So the people that heard this, they disliked the remembrance a great deal, and they hated it. And they did not look at the remembrance except with hatred, and hoping that the evil eye might come. These are from one of the most amazing things mentioned in the ayah. They looked at the ayah, and they looked at the revelation with anger and angst. And so when Allah says, it is not, meaning the Quran, except remembrance and admonition to the whole of creation, we should take heed of this. Allah the Exalted then brings us to Surah Al-Haaqqah. Surah Al-Haaqqah is a Meccan surah in totality by consensus. Allah the Exalted, He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Al-Haaqqah. Mal-Haaqqah. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحَاقَّةُ كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ وَعَادٌ بِالْقَارِعَةِ فَأَمَّا ثَمُودُ فَأُهْلِكُوا بِالطَّاغِيَةِ وَأَمَّا عَادٌ فَأُهْلِكُوا بِرِيحٍ صَرْصَرٍ عَاتِيَةٍ سخرها عليهم 7 ليال و8 أيام حسوما فترى القوم فيها صرعى كأنهم أعجاز نخل خاوية فهل ترى لهم من باقية. The clear reality. What is the clear reality? And what shall cause you to know the clear reality? Thamud and Aad both denied the great day of clamor. As for Thamud, they were destroyed by being overturned. And as for Aad, they were destroyed by a searing wind that overcame them. It overcame them for 7 nights and 8 days, in which the people's bodies were thrown around to such a state that they looked like the trunks of overturned date palm trees. Do you see any remains of them today? Surah Al-Haaqqah, the 69th surah, ayat 1 to 8. When the Exalted One mentions the sure reality, this is referring to the resurrection, because in it is the sure reality of all affairs. As the Judge said, the day of resurrection is referred to as Al-Haaqqah because every human being has his righteous and evil deeds investigated for the sure reality of what was in them. And the statement, what is the sure reality, means to think about what's been given. It's to make you reflect on the severity of the affair. And what will cause you to know what is the sure reality, meaning because you don't fully grasp the severity of it, the different phases and stages that happen therein. This ayah is also to trigger the minds of the deniers so that they might reflect. Aad and Thamud. Thamud and Aad both denied the great clamor. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said the expression for the great clamor, Al-Qari'ah, this is one of the words, this is one of the other names for the day of resurrection. Muqatil says, it is referred to as the great clamor because Allah the Exalted shall put his enemies into clamor with the punishment that comes upon them. Ibn Qutaybah rahimahullah says, this clamor is because of the fright the enemies are put in, and the difficulties at the time, and the trials and tribulations that humanity shall undergo. As the Judge says, also it's the different states that people will go through. The hearts will be clamoring for some type of repose. But they shall be overthrown. Their being overthrown and their rejecting faith has been mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Muqatil, Abu Ubaidah, Ibn Qutaybah. Whereas, as the Judge mentions that it refers to, as well as the scholars of Arabic language, and as the Judge say, it refers to the transgression of these people. They shall be overthrown with a blast, an overwhelming blast, as said by Qatada, which shall leave everything in waste. And leave nothing untouched. Part of this was mentioned in Surah Hamim Sajda, ayah 16. And a searing wind was sent over them, which subdued them and subjected them, following one after the other. These winds are said by Ibn Abbas and Al-Farra. And the matter was completed in the decreed time Allah made for it. It's said by Al-Haaqqah. This is also mentioned by Muqatil. But the winds calmed down in the 8th day, and the souls were taken on that day. Allah then sent one black bird forward. And some of the people in the ocean took that as a glad tiding, but that was the punishment of Allah to come. Do you see the people on those days and nights? Do you not see that they've been overthrown? Like overturned date palms from the trunks of the trees. Further to this, much of this has been already explained in Surah Al-Qamar, the 54th Surah 20. Do you see any remains of them? Meaning the remains of this nation, as said by Al-Farra. Do you see any remains of these people today, as said by Abu Ubaidah? Do you see anything left for posterity, as said by Ibn Qutaybah? Then the Exalted One, he mentions, وَجَاءَ فِرْعَوْنُ وَمَنْ قَبْلَهُ وَالْمُؤْتَفِكَاتُ بِالْخَاطِئَةِ فَعَصَوْا رَسُولَ رَبِّهِمْ فَأَخَذَهُمْ أَخْذَةً رَابِيَةً إِنَّا لَمَّا طَغَى الْمَاءُ حَمَلْنَاكُمْ فِي الْجَارِيَةِ لِنَجْعَلَهَا لَكُمْ تَذْكِرَةً وَتَعِيَهَا أُذُنٌ وَاعِيَةٌ فَإِذَا نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ نَفْخَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ وَحُمِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ وَالْجِبَالُ فَدُكَّتَا دَكَّةً وَاحِدَةً فَيَوْمَئِذٍ وَقَعَتِ الْوَاقِعَةُ وَانشَقَّتِ السَّمَاءُ فَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاهِيَةٌ وَالْمَلَكُ عَلَى أَرْجَائِهَا وَيَحْمِلُ عَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ يومئذ تعرضون لا تخفى منكم خافية فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول هاؤم اقرءوا كتابيه إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابيه فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية وأما من أوتي كتابه بشماله فيقول يا ليتني لم أوت كتابيه ولم أدري ما حسابيه يا ليتها كانت القاضية ما أغنى عني ماليه هلك عني سلطانيه خذوه فغلوه ثم الجحيم صلوه ثم في سلسلة ذرعها 70 ذراعا فاسلكوه إنه كان لا يؤمن بالله العظيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. And when the Pharaoh and those before him came, and those of the destroyed cities came with their sin, they disobeyed the messenger of their Lord, and they were taken with a swift grasp. Whereas when the waters came flooding up, we carried you in that boat, so that we might make it to you as an admonition, a sign, and that people might take a warning from it. And when the horn is blown into one time, and the earth and the mountains are carried away, and destroyed utterly one time, on that day the sure reality is brought to pass. The sky shall have a great commotion, and that day it will pass away. The angels should come hot on the heels. The angels will come hot on the heels of this, and the throne of your Lord will be carried by angels, with over them being 8 in number. That day, you will not be able to escape, nor shall anything be hidden. As far as who was given his book in his right hand, he shall say, come forward and read of this book that I have. Indeed, I thought that I would meet my reckoning one day. So he shall be in a state of bliss and happiness and a pleasing life, in a high garden. He shall be in a noble and beneficial life, in a high and exalted garden, with branches that are low hanging. It will be said, eat and drink in good pleasure and ease of that which passed away from before in the days past. As far as the one who was given the book in his left hand, he will say, oh, I wish I had never been given this book, and that I did not know what I was being reckoned for. And the judgment handed down, my wealth has been of no use to me, and his wealth shall be of no use to him. And his governance and authority shall be destroyed. And it will be said to the angels, take hold of him and toss him in. So then there's the raging fire that shall scorch him. Then there are the chains, in which there will be 70 in number. These 70 in number will go over the arms. And so, this is the one who did not believe in Allah the Grand, nor did he seek to feed those who were poor and needy. Surah Al-Haaqqah, the 69th surah, ayat 9 to 34. Now, when the Exalted One mentions, and the Pharaoh and those from before him came, the Pharaoh and those from before him came, meaning those before him from the unbelieving nations. Now, the group of people called the Mu'tafikat means the destroyed cities. The destroyed cities refers to the cities of Nabiyyuna Lut alayhi salam's people. They were those who were brought to ruin on account of their sins. They were destroyed by the sins which they had committed, and the lies that they had done, and the denial of the revelation. As the judges mentioned this, as well as the fact that Qarun and his people were those who fall under the direct mention of this ayah. it has further been mentioned that the Pharaoh and those from before him in the destroyed cities were taken on account of their sin. They disobeyed the messenger of their Lord, meaning they denied their messengers. So he took them with a great grasp one time. And when the water rose up, meaning when it's past its barrier, until it reached everything in the time of Nabiyyina Lut, alayhi salam, Nabiyyina Hud, Nabiyyina Nuh, alayhi salam, when the water reached its highest levels and went past its boundaries, we carried you, meaning we carried your fathers and you that were in their backs, locked in. We carried you on this very barge which floated on the water. So that we might make this action which we did of drowning the people of Nuh and saving those with them, saving those who believe with Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, and we might make this a sign, an evidence, and a proof. So that others might reflect. So remember the warning that is coming, to take heed, to put to memory what you've heard. The next expression that comes is that everything shall pass away. When the horn is blown into with one blast, which is the first blast. This was said by Ata, although as Ibn As-Sa'ib and Muqatil said this is the next blowing into the horn. And the earth and the mountains shall be carried away and just be destroyed in one instant. And laid and ruined and left to nothing. Part of this we've mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th Surah, Ayah 143. When we discussed that things will be brought to ruin. So, it should be understood that the mountains will be brought to such a level that they will seem like all one thing when they're taken away. They will seem as if they were all one thing, when in actuality each mountain was distinct. Just like when Allah says, إِنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. And remember when the skies and earth were both connected together, and then we split them apart into different things. Surah Al-Anbiya, the 21st Surah 30. And likewise the same thing holds for the mountains. That day, the reality shall come to pass when the day of resurrection is established, and the sky is split as the angels come down. And at that point, it will pass away out of fear of its Lord. Because it has opened itself up, and the angels have come through. And the angels will melek, the angels. Now the fact that Allah says melek instead of malaika means that Malak means an unspecified huge number. They come right on the heels of the rest of these incidents coming on the day of resurrection. Al-Haaqqah said, when the sky is rent asunder and split, the angels shall come forward until Allah commands them to proceed. Then they will go down to the earth, and they will encircle it, and whoever is on it. This is mentioned from Sa'id ibn Jubayr that he said, so they come down at the very place of where the world is, and that the arsh shall be carried by the 8. Meaning it's carried over the heads of these 8. And these 8 angels that carry are known as the throne bearers. And the throne bearers have this rank over all the other angels. And the throne bearers shall come forward uppermost on the day of resurrection, as mentioned by Al-Mawardi. So on that day, the day of resurrection, they shall be 8. Now it's been mentioned that these are 8 angels. Today there are 4, but when the day of resurrection comes, Allah shall bring more, another 4. And they shall be 8, as mentioned by the vast majority. However, it has also been mentioned that they are 8 rows of angels. And they are in such abundant number, no one knows their number except for Allah. This was said by Ibn Abbas and Sa'id ibn Jubayr and Ikrimah. It's also mentioned that the 8 here refers to the 8 types of angels, in which no one knows the number of these 8 types except Allah. This was mentioned by Muqatil. Abu Dawood narrated in his Sunan from the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah from the Prophet ﷺ that he said, that one of the angels of Allah from the throne bearers, if you look at the measurement of between where his ear is to his shoulder, is a distance of 700 years traveling time. This is collected by Imam Abu Dawood. Close quote. Inshallah, we will break here for Salat al-Maghrib, inshallah, and carry forward when we return. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم استغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم حميد رحيم ولا إله إلا الله. All right, I know where we left off. Okay. He's testing electricity. Everyone's doing it. That's it. That's it. A one finger raised, looking. All right. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. When we broke for Salat al-Maghrib, we had stopped on the ayah in which it discussed the 8 rows, which was ayah 17. We're now going to pick up on ayah 18, where the Imam rahimahullah, he says, quote, and as for the statement where the Exalted One said, that day when you shall be reckoned, nothing shall be hidden from you. There is the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari from the Prophet ﷺ that he said, on the day of resurrection, man shall have 3 types of reckoning. As for the first, this is a reckoning in which he shall be rebuked, the second reckoning is when he shall be excused, and the third reckoning is when the books shall be handed out in either the right or the left hand. This is collected by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, he used to say, reckon yourselves before you are reckoned. Weigh yourselves before you get weighed. And ornament one another for the greater reckoning. The greater reckoning is that day in which nothing shall be hidden. And when the Exalted One says, he shall say on that day, oh, look at the condition. Look at the situation. So the person saying this, look at the situation and come read of the book that I've been given. He's saying this because he is safe and joyous in the fact that he has salvation. Muqatil mentions that this ayah was sent down regarding Abu Salama ibn Abdul Asad. And when the Exalted One says that the human being says, I knew and was certain that I would be reckoned in this earthly life when I died, and that I would be resurrected, and that I would be reckoned in the hereafter and meet this fate. The person in this state is in a pleasurable life in which Allah is pleased with him, and the slave's life is pleasing to the slave. And he is in a high garden, and its fruits and branches are low hanging. They're near to him, so he does not have to stretch to reach them. And it will be said to them, eat and drink, as a representation of the good deeds that you used to do in the days passed by of old. meaning the days passed by of the earthly life. As for the one who was given the book in his left hand, the one given the book in his left hand, this ayah was sent down regarding Al-Aswad ibn Abdul Asad, who was killed by Hamza at the Battle of Badr. And he was the brother of Abu Salama. It was also said that this ayah was sent down regarding Abu Jahl. And when Allah said that the human being will say, "Oh, woe be to me that I be given this book." This is on account of all the wicked deeds being mentioned in it. And I didn't know what it holds because there's no way to fully reckon all the deeds that are mentioned therein. And so, these are the realities of what's been given. As for Ibn Mas'ud, Qatada, Yaqub, they recited as Kitabiyya as well as Hisabiyya without mentioning or without verbalizing the ha. Whereas Zajjaj has said that when you stop on these has at the end, you do mention them in the stopping. Although some people do not. But I do not like to contradict the Mus'haf, so I mention them. Kitabiyah, Hisabiyah, although it is permitted for those who might not because of another recitation. And likewise, when the Exalted One has said, وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا هِيَ, what will cause you to know what it is? Surah Al-Qari'ah, ayah 10. Oh, if only I had been dead before this time. This person on the day of resurrection will hope that there is some cutoff to life, as if he's hoping to be eternally dead, so that he might not be resurrected for his accounting. My authority has been destroyed. My proof was taken away. And my dominion has finished. This is mentioned by Ikrimah, Al-Dhahak, Al-Sudai, and Ibn Zayd. So Allah will say to the angel, seize him, فَغُلُّوا, and tie his hand to his neck, and cast him in the great fire to be scorched. Give him admittance into the fire. This expression signifies a command, is said by Zajjaj. And they shall be bound and chained up with 70 links. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has said that on each of these links is an angel supervising the matter. And Nawf al-Shami has said every chain link is 70 spans, and the chain link between each link is a space that's further than what's between you and what's between Mecca. And the overall size of these chains, which someone shall be bound with, is like the journey from Mecca to Al-Kufa. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, the Imam rahimahullah, said every handspan is worth 70, and the people of the fire shall be bound with these chains. So enter them into that which they brought about for themselves. So it's mentioned that the chain link that goes around those on the day of resurrection, that it is entered in through the anal orifice of the unbeliever and exits out from his head. And it courses through his body. This is the one who did not believe in Allah the Grand. So he did not testify to his oneness and his uniqueness and his might and his grandeur. And nor did he hasten others to feed the needy. So he never fed them, nor did he command that they should be fed. Then the Exalted One says, فَلَيْسَ لَهُ الْيَوْمَ هَاهُنَا حَمِيمٌ وَلَا طَعَامٌ إِلَّا مِنْ غِسْلِينَ لا يأكله إلا الخاطئون فلا أقسم بما تبصرون وما لا تبصرون إنه لقول رسول كريم وما هو بقول شاعر قليلا ما تؤمنون ولا بقول كاهن قليلا ما تذكرون تنزيل من رب العالمين ولو تقول علينا بعض الأقاويل لأخذنا منه باليمين ثم لقطعنا منه الوتين فما منكم من أحد عنه حاجزين وإنه لتذكرة للمتقين وإنا لنعلم أن منكم مكذبين وإنه لحسرة على الكافرين وإنه لحق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. And it's not for him on that day to have any respite, but penalty. Nor shall he have any food, except the pus that shall come from rotting wounds. No one shall eat of such a thing except for the most rebellious of sinners. I swear by that which you see and that which you do not see. This is the words of a noble messenger. It is not the word of a poet. Little do you believe. Nor the word of a magician or a diviner. Little is it that you remember. It is revelation from the Lord of all creation. And if he was to speak against us even one word that was not from us, we would have taken him by his right hand and cut off the aorta of his heart to stop all which would come therein. There is no one of you that can prevent that which is to come. This is an admonition to those who are pious. We know those among you who are deniers, and it is hard and a trial for the unbelievers to hear these words. But it is the certain truth. So give glory to the name of your Lord, the most grand. Surah Al-Haaqqah, the 69th Surah, ayat 35 to 52. And when the Exalted One is said, so there is no help or respite on that day. There's no benefit, no intercession he can take, nor food except for the pus coming from the wounds. And this is coming from the wounds, the pus coming from the wounds of the people of the fire, as said by Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhu, as well as Muqatil. And in this case, the ghislin refers to the blood and the pus. It also refers to a tree in the great fire, which was discussed before, the zaqum, in which the people of the fire shall eat from it. And its fruit is of the same quality, as said by Ad-Dahhak and Al-Rabi'. And when they consume this, it will issue out from their pores and the other areas on their body, because there is no respite for them, as said by Yahya ibn Salam, as Ibn Qutaybah as well. This is only for the sinners, the khati'un. This refers to the unbelievers. So I most assuredly swear. This oath being given by Allah is to the idol worshippers, to make them understand the severity. I swear by what you see and what you do not see. This means all things that exist, He, Allah, has sworn by them, both bodies and souls. That it, the Quran, is the word of a noble messenger. This is making reference to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as said by the vast majority, as well as the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, who's bringing the revelation. Sabay ibn Sa'ib. As well as Muqatil ibn Qutaybah. So this is the words of the messenger. And he intended by the messenger from Allah the Exalted. And the messenger that's receiving the revelation from Allah has a messenger sent in unto him. It's not the words of a poet. Little is it that you believe. So little is it that you believe because it's not the words of a poet. So they're denying the truth of this, which negates Iman. Nor is it the word of a kahin. This is one who engages in magic and other affairs. This is mentioned in Surah Al-Tur, the 52nd Surah 29. It is revelation sent down. It is revelation. And if he was to speak against us one word, meaning if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had mentioned one word that hadn't been revealed to him and attributed to revelation, he would have been taken by his right hand. In this sense, it means he would have been grabbed. His power would have been stopped. Because Yameen in this sense refers to power and strength. And the power of most things is in the right hand side of it, the right hand of it it's referring to. And we would have cut off his aorta. The aorta is a connected section that runs from the heart along the back. And when you cut this, you cut the power and the individual dies. It looks similar to a pipe and is the most important byway. It is almost white in color and very thick and viscous looking. Close quote. You have to understand that, remember, Baghdad's got 70 hospitals by this time. So he's going into this description on what the aorta looks like. Right? The wateen, how it looks. By this time, Al-Jabarti's book on the human anatomy has already been written. Ibn Jahil has already written his book, Kitab al-Hayawan. By this time, there's already sophisticated books on anatomy that have been written. So Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah is already dealing with these matters as in a matter-of-fact way. Just as that today we would discuss electron microscopy in a very matter-of-fact way, because it is something that's become part of people's lives. So just understand, this is 900 years ago, but he's speaking of these affairs as if they're everyday matters. Why? Because to him they were everyday matters. The Imam then goes on to say, quote, "There's no one of you that can stop this revelation." Just like when Allah says, "La nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusuli." We don't make any distinction between His messengers. Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd Surah, 285. This is the statement showing nothing can be done because there's no distinctions made. Nothing can be done to stop the revelation. No lie can overcome the revelation with the clear knowledge. And anyone who attempts so, they'll be stopped. As if Allah is saying, we will punish them and stop them. No one can stop the punishment of Allah. And it, meaning the Quran, is hard on the unbelievers and shall be on the day of resurrection. They shall be filled with remorse that they had not believed in it before. It is the truth and certainty. And just the same as Allah has said, وَلَدَارُ الْآخِرَةِ, and it goes, and this belongs to the abode of the hereafter. Surah Yusuf, the 12th Surah 109. As the Judge said, so the certainty mentioned here is the haqqul yaqeen. Now we've already discussed what this means in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, ayat 95 to 96. We now come to another surah, Surah Al-Ma'arij. Surah Al-Ma'arij is sometimes referred to as Surah Sa'ala Sa'il. It is sometimes called Surah Al-Waqi', whereas the other one is called Waqi'ah. This is Surah Al-Waqi'. And this is a Meccan surah by consensus. Allah the Exalted has said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sa'ala sa'ilun bi'adhabin waqi' lil-kafirina laysa lahu dafi' min Allahi dhil ma'arij. تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة فاصبر صبرا جميلا إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا يوم تكون السماء كالمهل وتكون الجبال كالعهن ولا يسأل حميم حميما. An asker has come inquiring about the punishment that is certain to come for the unbelievers that have no defense from it, from Allah, the possessor of the lofty heights. The angels and the Spirit ascend to him in a day which is 50,000 years in reckoning. Be patient in a goodly way. Those who await the day, they see it as if it is far away, but we see it as near. A day in which the sky shall be pulled away, in which the mountains shall be like carded wool, and no companion shall ask of another, and no succor shall be given by one to another. Surah Al-Ma'arij, the 70th surah, ayat 1 to 10. And when the Exalted One says, a questioner has come inquiring, the inquirer being referred to is An-Nadr ibn Al-Harith. It was at this very time that he had said before, Allahumma in kana hadha huwa al-Haaqqah min indika fa'amtir alayna hijaratan min as-sama'. Allah, if this is really indeed truth from you, then send down stones from the sky to rain down on us, if the reality is as you say. Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th surah, ayah 32. And this is the understanding of the vast majority, such as Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Al-Rabi' and Anas, although they mention that Abu Jahl was also present on that time. So they ask you about a penalty that's coming, meaning the punishment coming to himself and the punishment that is to come. He is asking, who shall receive the punishment and when is it coming? But he's asking this in a mocking fashion. So he's asking about this penalty that's to come. He's questioning. And he's asking, when shall it be? So that I might prepare myself. Now, sa'ala sa'ilun. Sal, which is the root of where the word sa'ala is coming from, is an actual valley in the great fire where the unbelievers are being punished or shall be punished. As said by Zayd ibn Thabit, Zayd ibn Aslam, and his son Abdur-Rahman. Ibn Abbas has also mentioned that those who recite it can also recite it as Sala Saylun in one narration. So this surah is the answer to a question being asked by an unbeliever. For who is this punishment? For the unbelievers. The waqi', meaning that it shall come to be. So the penalty which the unbeliever asked about shall come to be. There is no defense from it. It is coming from Allah. So that punishment is coming from Allah towards the unbelievers. Dhil Ma'arij, the possessor of the lofty heights, which are the skies of the universe, of the universes, as said by Ibn Abbas, Mujahid. And these are what the angels traverse, as said by Ibn Qutaybah. So this expression, the angels traversing through them with the Spirit, has been discussed by Al-Farra and Al-Khattabi as well, that the deeds ascend up along with them, as well as the souls of the believers. And they ascend up to Allah on a day which is 50,000 years worth of reckoning. Now the angels descending up to Allah on a day which is 50,000 years worth of reckoning, what time period is this referring to? Well, first of all, this is referring to the day of resurrection. As said by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Qatada, and Al-Qurdi. Because the day of resurrection is worth 50,000 calendar years. From the time of the resurrection to where the accounting takes place between the creation. This is why there is a hadith that runs, the day of resurrection shall be light on a believer, to the point that it shall be lighter upon him than the compulsory prayers that have been ordained. This is collected by Imam Ahmed. So, it's also been mentioned that the reckoning of the creation, besides Allah, that's looking at the matter, see it as 50,000 calendar years. But for the believer with Allah, the truth is that he shall finish from his accounting as if an hour of the day. Ata ibn Abi Rabah has said, Allah shall finish the accounting of the creation, an equivalent of half a day of the days of this earthly life, in what seems like, but is 50,000 calendar years in the hereafter. There's no protection from Allah on a day in which it is reckoned as 50,000 calendar years. So they're asking about the punishment that's coming on a day which is worth 50,000 years, which the angel shall come down from the lowest earth to the throne. This represents the day of resurrection and the events to take place. So be patient on their denying you with goodness. Be patient before you're commanded to fight them. Because the ayahs that come after, like Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah 5, they think it's far away, meaning the punishment. But we see it as near, meaning because it's coming. And He's informed them, Allah has informed them that it is coming on a day in which the sky shall be rent asunder, as mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf as well, ayah 29, the 18th Surah. Mountains shall be like carded wool, meaning like wool that's been spread out. It has to be flattened down. It's lost its round qualities. And no companion shall ask about another. No relative shall ask about a near relative, because he's only concerned with himself at that point. Muqatil said, on that day no man will ask about his near relative, nor shall someone speak to another on account of the difficulty of that day. Then the Exalted One says, يُبَصَّرُونَهُمْ يَوَدُّ الْمُجْرِمُ لَوْ يَفْتَدِي مِنْ عَذَابِ يَوْمِئِذٍ بِبَنِيهِ وصاحبته وأخيه وفصيلته التي تؤويه ومن في الأرض جميعا ثم ينجيه كلا إنها لظى نزاعة للشوى تدعو من أدبر وتولى وجمع فأوعى إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا إلا المصلين الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم والذين يصدقون بيوم الدين والذين هم من عذاب ربهم مشفقون إن عذاب ربهم غير مأمون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم بشهاداتهم قائمون والذين هم على صلاتهم يحافظون أولئك في جنات مكرمون فما للذين كفروا قبلك مهطعين عن اليمين وعن الشمال عزين أيطمع كل امرئ منهم أن يدخل جنة نعيم كلا إنا خلقناهم مما يعلمون فلا أقسم برب المشارق والمغارب إنا لقادرون على أن نبدل خيرا منهم وما نحن بمسبوقين فذرهم يخوضوا ويلعبوا حتى يلاقوا يومهم الذي يوعدون يوم يخرجون من الأجداث سراعا كأنهم إلى نصب يوفدون خاشعة أبصارهم ترهقهم ذلة ذلك اليوم الذي كانوا يوعدون. It shall be shown to them on a day in which the criminal should love, if he could give as a sacrifice all of what he had to protect himself from the punishment of that day, including his children, his dear companion, his brother, and all of what he had in the world of its trappings, and whatever is in the earth, all in totality, then it could save him. By no means. The blazing shall come to him, the conflagration, which peels the skin off the very faces. And those shall call out from behind who have been left behind, and they shall be gathered together. The human being was created in haste, and when some evil touches him, he becomes impatient. And when some good touches him, He forbids from all goodness, except those who pray, those who are maintaining their prayers with consistency, those who give the apportioned amount of their wealth to the one who asks and the one who does not ask, those who are certain in the day of resurrection, those who fear the punishment of their Lord. Indeed, the punishment of your Lord is unstoppable. Those who preserve their chastity, except towards their wives, or those wives that have come about through another marriage contract, because they, in doing this, are not oppressing themselves or others. And whoever seeks something other than that, then they are transgressing. The righteous are also those who keep their trusts and fulfill their words, those who give good witness and stand by it, those who preserve their prayers in totality and in group. These are in gardens that are ennobled. So what of the case of those who reject faith before you, who have their necks stretched out from the right and the left? And everyone among them is lost except for the one who is guided, that he might enter into the garden of felicity. But by no means those who reject faith. Indeed, we created them of that which they know. And indeed, I swear, by the very Lord of the Easts and the Wests, we can do all things. And we can replace them with better. And we are not late in our accounting and bringing things to a fair. So leave them disputing and playing about until they meet the day which they were promised. A day in which they shall rush from their tombs, running headlong, their faces downcast, humiliated. That is the day in which they were promised. Surah Al-Ma'arij, the 70th surah, ayat 11 through 44. The Exalted One mentions that these people, one not asking about another one, they will be engaged with themselves to the point that they will only be looking at their own state. And the criminal, meaning the idol worshipper, would love if he could do one sacrifice that would be accepted for himself, or for his wife, or for his near relatives, for his tribe, and for other dependents and himself. Then he could be saved by means of that sacrifice. By no means. No sacrifice can save you on that day. It is the blazing fire. And the innaha lava. Lava is one of the names of the great fire. It is on account of its blazing conflagration that it's been given this name, because lava is to blaze. The skull shall be melted off the very faces and the skulls, the skin. Al-Haaqqah musaddiqa. This is the truth that's been given, as Allah mentions in Surah Fatir, 35th Surah 31. So here Allah mentioning these things mentions the truth. So the very flesh on the head, the flesh on the face, and on the bones, and the hands, as mentioned by Mujahid, Abu Aliya, Sa'id ibn Jubayr, Al-Farra, and Al-Zajjaj, shall just come off. Before the fire even touches them, it shall melt away. These very ones who were called to faith and turned away from the truth, that idol worshipper, that hypocrite, they shall all be gathered together, along with the wealth and the zakat al-fitr, the prayers that they didn't make. All these things shall be brought together. The human being was created in this state of haste, because he is hasty, comes to hasty conclusions, as mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Abu Ubaidah al-Zajjaj. He is quick to run towards that which is not halal for him, as said by Ibn Abbas. He is also stingy in a general sense, as said by Hasan al-Basri al-Dhahak, as well as Sa'id ibn Jubayr. He is argumentative for only his side, as said by Mujahid. As well as Ikrimah, Qatada, Muqatil, Al-Farra, and he is firm in disputing for his side and ignoring the side of others. And when some evil touches him, when he has some difficulty where he suffers some poverty or some setback, he cannot be patient. He can't reflect. But when some good comes to him, he is quick to attribute it from himself, and then takes more than his portion and forbids the right of Allah, except in the case of those who pray. Meaning, these are the people who believe in Allah. Those who maintain their prayers because they preserve the compulsory prayers, as said by Ibn Mas'ud. They don't look to their right or their left while they're in the prayer, as said by Uqba ibn Amir, and as well as Az-Zajjaj. They remain firmly placed and they don't move around. As well, these people are careful that their clothes don't get splashed with urine, so they don't urinate standing up. They are those who do a great deal of optional prayers, said by Ibn Jurayj, and they give the due right from their wealth that has been apportioned. We've already discussed this in Surah Al-Dhariyat, ayah 19, as well as Yawmuddin, the day of resurrection, Surah Al-Fatiha, the first surah. And whatever's after this, we've already discussed it in great detail in other places. And their testimony on Tawheed, they keep. They stand firm to it. They stand by it on the truth. And they don't conceal it. So what is the case of those unbelievers who were mentioned beforehand? So there were a group of unbelievers who sat around the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mocking the Quran and denying it. So what of these people? As the judges mentioned, that this ayah shows that these people, they will not be able to stand on the day of resurrection with any excuse. Because these same people that sat around the Prophet ﷺ exchanged looks of hatred towards him. And muhti'een, their necks stretched out, showing hatred. This has been mentioned in Surah Ibrahim, the 14th Surah, 43, and Surah Al-Qamar, the 54th Surah, ayah 8. Looking from the right and the left. So these people that were gathered around the Prophet ﷺ, they'll say, indeed, these people are entering the paradise, just as Muhammad said. Look around. If these are the people that will enter the paradise, we're wealthy. We'll enter in before them. So Allah said, this is not the case that any one of them can wish that he will enter in earlier. But Allah admits to His felicity who He so wills. By no means. We created them from that which they know. Meaning from the clot, from the chewed flesh. And no one can gain access to the paradise from their lineage, some type of honor, because man's origin is all one. And obedience to Allah is proof of salvation. And we created him from a clearly determined time period. So how can someone deserve paradise when they do not believe? Here, Allah the Exalted gives an example of this ayah, and there was an incident in which there was a man named Bishr ibn Jahash from the Prophet ﷺ, in which he recited this ayah. We created him from that which they know. And then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, after reciting that ayah, he spit out a little bit of spit on the ground, and he said, Allah, Mighty Majestic, has said that you cannot stop me, and I've created you from this likeness, until I formed you and shaped you how you would move about in the world. The earth is much larger than you, and you have been gathered and forbidden. And yet you were created from this simple substance. Will you believe, or will you castigate belief? And then when the Exalted One says, so I swear and we've discussed this in Surah Al-Haaqqah, ayah 38, by the easts and the wests, meaning the east of every day and the west of every day, wherever it may be on earth, we are able to get to change the best of them, to create better than them when they disobey. And we are not delaying in our principles and that which we have decreed. This has been explained in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the 56th Surah, ayah 60. So leave them alone to play in their falsehood and to sport and jest in their earthly possessions, until the truth shall come to them, that which they were promised on the day of resurrection. And this is a threat from Allah regarding those who reject faith. Part of this was realized after Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah 5 was revealed. So the threat of remaining until the day of resurrection is a threat for those who will not die on that day. On a day in which they shall run from their tombs headlong, meaning running straight forward. It is as if they're leaning forward and about to fall over, as if they're running to their gods, seeking their succor and favor quickly. And then when he says their gaze shall be downcast and lowered on that day. As for the rest of this surah, we've already explained most of this in Surah Al-Ma'arij, ayah 42. So someone can go to this for the rest of the details. Close quote. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم أستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم يحمي الراحمين ولا إله إلا الله. Now, is there a question over what we've covered so far today? No? Now, I will mention one thing very briefly. The ayah, I swear by what you see and what you do not see, is the evidence used by one of my teachers when he was asked in one of our hadith dars, are we alone in the universe? Are human beings, jinn and angels the only ones here? And he said, the evidence for this, I swear by what you see and what you do not see. That means that the universe is not empty. It's teeming with life. There's things that what you see and what you do not see. So when people say, well, what about, we've heard there's people that have mentioned sightings of this, or they've seen this and seen that. The most we can say is, Allah has said, I swear by what you know, what you see, and what you do not see. So there are things that you see, things that you do not see. It's all out there in the universe. We're not living in an empty universe where we're on a blue dust ball in the middle of nowhere and we're just orbiting aimlessly. There's a universe that's teeming with life. There are universes that are teeming with life. We live in a multiverse, which is now we're starting to hear scientists discuss. Neil deGrasse Tyson is discussing this. Jeffrey Weeks is discussing this. He was the first one to try to really break this down in a systematic way. So, no, we live in a creation that's filled with life. So, inshallah, we stop here. And we pick up next week, inshallah, we start with Surah Nuh, the 71st Surah. So I say, Subhanakallahumma wa hamdika, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, innahu ghafurur rahim, wa la ilaha illa Allah. Assalamu alaikum.